My whole life, people have thought it about me, and I'm just this small little guy who really doesn't know a whole heck of a lot. I've been underrated by so many people in my own life, from friends to family to teachers and even coworkers. They underrate my abilities to get the job done. And the same goes in the automotive world. There's so many car companies out there that just write them off. They can't do anything right, and there's nothing good about that company. I don't know why they're still kicking around. But in all reality, these companies serve a purpose, and they're here for a reason. You may have underrated them, but essentially, these are some of the bigger car companies that are expanding upon us and giving us what the real world wants. Today, AutoLooks is going to be taking a look at some of the biggest players in the underrated automotive world. Welcome back to the AutoLooks podcast. I am your host, as always, the doctor to the automotive industry, Mr. Everett J, coming to you from our host website at autolooks.net. If you haven't been there, stop by, check it out, read some of the reviews, check out some of the ratings, and go to the Corporate Links website page. Big or small, we have them all. Car companies from around the globe, and any of the companies we're talking about on this podcast today will be available on the Corporate Links website page. So you can find information about all of their backstories, their history, and products, all available through links and information on the autolooks.net website. The AutoLooks podcast is brought to you by Ecom Entertainment Group and distributed by podbeam.com. If you'd like to get in touch with us, send us an email over at email@autolooks.net. So like I said in the beginning, underrated brands. Yes, they exist. They're out there. And some of these car companies, people just look the other way. They just exist for a small purpose. They're only here for a short time and not a long time. But with some of the companies on this list, this isn't true at all. Some of these car companies have made some of the biggest products you can even think of. Some of them haven't even broken into the market yet and are making a big splash in their field. And some of them have so much history behind them that essentially they're just too big to not remember what they did. And today, we're going to take a look at these car companies. And we're going to go straight through the alphabet, starting with the letter A. A is for Acura or Alfa Motors. Acura on its own is one of the original luxury brands from Japanese American divisions. Acura came to us with the original legend. But how is it that Acura has come to be just a standard premium-based Honda product that we all forget about all the time? When you think about luxury cars, Acura is not one of the top 3 that make anybody's list. We don't think about it, ever. But if you look back into the 90s, Acura gave us 2 of the most memorable products from those days. One being one of the most utilized import tuners of all time, and the other one, a lowly power unit in supercar fighting territory. Yeah, we're talking about the original Acura Integra, or Honda Integra from the other side. But in this side of the world, the Acura Integra. This was a car that I saw everywhere. And I mean everywhere. When I was 15 years old, my dad and I took a trip to the west coast of Canada, went all the way out to Vancouver. And when I was traveling around Vancouver, that's all I saw. Everywhere. Acura Integras. Everywhere. Customized, regular, sedan, coupe. They were all over the place. And even though they only really lived 2 generations on our shores before they became the RSX, the Integra was an integral part of the Acura nameplate and really brought the Acura name to the forefront. We weren't thinking about all these vehicles considering the fact they had the CL, the TL, and the RL at that same time. The Integra is everything that car company was all about. And its halo car sibling, the NSX, a vehicle set out and created with the help of none other than Ayrton Senna. Senna built that car with the help of Honda of Japan to make it a supercar fighter. And only with a lowly V6 power plant, this thing went up against V10 and V12 supercars and literally knocked their pants off. And this is from a small little American division of a Japanese car company. Sure, everywhere else in the world was getting the Honda NSX and the Honda Integras, but on this side of the world, we were getting the Acura products. And even though companies like Infiniti and Lexus were taking the limelight away from Acura, they still held something that the competition never had, and that was the Halo product. Infiniti never had a full-scale import product until the G35 came out. Lexus has never had one until the RC came out. And when it comes to halo vehicles, Infiniti has never had one, and Lexus only had the LFA. Acura was doing this in the early 90s and blowing the pants off the competition. So why do we underrate them? Well, they may be a smaller division of a Japanese product sold to the North American marketplace, but Acura is here, and they are now growing in Asian marketplaces. We may think of them as just a premium branded Honda product, but they are so much more. Next to that, Alpha Motors. And if you've never heard of Alpha Motors Corporation from America is the brand new AMC. Yes, not American Motors, Alpha Motors. They have a multitude of different vehicles built off one singular electric platform with a coupe, a sedan, a station wagon, an SUV, a pickup truck, and even a commercialized flat deck. Hell, they even have aftermarket performance variations of nearly every product they have as well, showcasing to us their Rex SUV or their Wolf. Alpha Motors is showcasing to us what can be done off one singular platform. And even though their products are still not on the market, even after nearly 5 years of showcasing them, they are not here and they are not for sale. But why not? When they have so many products available on their website, we just shove them back under the rug because we just think it's another Tesla wannabe. They're just another American electric car company trying to come out in a diluted marketplace. But Alpha Motors has something that the competition don't have. They have a singular platform for all of their vehicles. So we all talked about platform building as many products off a singular platform. Alpha is doing that, and they're showcasing to us you can build a multitude of different models off one platform. When they finally do hit the ground running, they're going to have a full product lineup available to the marketplace, where people are going to go in and thinking, oh, it's just like, Lucid or Tesla, where they only have like maybe 1 or 2 vehicles available at the time they hit the market running. No, Alpha's going to have a full lineup. When they hit it, we're going to think that they've been around for so long because so many car companies don't have a full product lineup when they hit the market. They take years to build it. Hell, Tesla has been building for 20 years and still doesn't have a full product lineup. They have 2 sedans, 2 active lifestyle vehicles, and a pickup truck. That's it. There's no minivan. There's no sports car. There's no station wagon. There's no utility vehicle. And there's not even a crossover utility vehicle. So they're missing more of the market, where Alpha has nearly every one of those bases covered. And they haven't even come out. Next in the alphabet is B. And B is a company that is actually going to be going with a company from our letter M division, Bollinger Motors, who is now owned by Mullen Automotive, who also owns our Canadian counterpart, Electramechanica. Where Bollinger Motors and Mullen Automotive really take the cake when it comes to being an underrated brand, is Bollinger has now entered the marketplace and showcased this full-scale utility vehicle and pickup truck in the simplest design ever that works in so many different ways. It's fully electric and it's able to sustain anything you throw at it. Those vehicles aren't even on the marketplace yet. Bollinger has actually moved into full-scale production of cab-over-electric platforms for transport cargo vans. And now with the financial backing from Mullen Automotive, who is utilizing Chinese production to build some of their entry-level vehicles for European and Asian marketplaces, hasn't even opened up sale of their American vehicles, the 5 active lifestyle vehicle, and is even utilizing the Qiantu sports car. They now have the Mullen Dragon sports car from China as well. They're not even building their own vehicles yet. Why do we start looking at them as, they're never going to make it? Oh, there's Mullen, there's Bollinger, there's Electramechanica. Not a single one of them, except for Bollinger, even produces a product yet. Bollinger is the only one that produces something off their own platforms, of their own design, of their own creation, where Mullen utilizes pre-built products from China. Electramechanica has only ever had one product, the Solo. But with all this development and research into new products and new markets, both of these car companies can make it big. And by the time they make it big, they'll have financial backing of a product lineup that's already making money to sustain their viability for the future by utilizing products that are already pre-developed to help them build their own development of their own vehicle, the Mullen 5. When the 5 comes out, the technology and development of that vehicle will ensure its longevity in the marketplace. Hell, even the Bollinger pickup truck and their SUV, if they ever choose to sell it in the marketplace. And people may think that it's the most basic, bland, boring design. Hell, it's the winner of a cookie cutter award from AutoLooks and is also a holder of the Rusty Award for horrible designs. And yet, when the vehicle comes out, it's still going to be wanted by the masses. Where people today look at something like the Cybertruck and want it because it's so different than what is existing in the marketplace. Bollinger's trucks will be there as well. But the reason why they've taken a step back is to ensure that their platform cargo vans can make it into the future. Once they've become a viable business off of their product lineup that they know they can make a profit at, they'll be able to turn things around and go from being a small, tiny little manufacturer into a full-scale operation for the automotive marketplace. Mullen and Bollinger are doing it right. And they're doing it similar to the next car company on our list, Canoo. Canoo has signed a deal with NASA to become the new vehicle for NASA astronauts. This is the new shuttle for them. On top of that, Walmart wants to take delivery for last mile delivery of their products to customers. Canoo is now looking at getting their pickup truck, their van, and their mobility unit, the MPV, out to the marketplace. We don't take them seriously, like a lot of other manufacturers on the list, like Fisker, like Karma, like Li Auto, like Lucid, like London Electric Vehicles. A lot of these car companies we don't take into consideration how viable the product they are developing is for the marketplace. And we may think because these car companies aren't out, they don't exist. They're just a bunch of ideas and images. No, we're not talking about, people just building a scale model, putting it out there and trying to create as much hype as possible to gain interest, kind of like my homegrown Maple Majestic Motors of Canada. No, we're talking about car companies that have actually built working prototypes of vehicles. Canoo, Fisker, Karma, Lucid, Li Auto, London Electric Vehicles, and hell, even VinFast and XPeng have all developed products for the marketplace. Some of them are in the early stages of development. Some of them are in the growth stages of development. A company like Canoo is a beginning, and they're trying to get backing for big orders, similar to the last mile delivery vehicles for Walmart, the NASA shuttle, and even moving into the world of Uber and Lyft. Canoo wants to secure deals before it jumps into production. See, everybody has been watching all these other big car companies, companies like Tesla and Rivian, who are showcasing to the world that they are top tier brands. They're not like these little underrated ones we're talking about. They're the big guys. Well, Rivian jumped in, all in, as they tried to release both their pickup truck, their SUV, and the van all at the exact same time. Instead of meeting their targets for their Amazon delivery van and trying to grow from there, they tried to do all three in one shot. For people like Canoo, Fisker, and Karma are not doing that. Karma, if you've ever noticed, has a whole bunch of different vehicles out there. But in all reality, the original Karma sedan, which was created by Heinrich Fisker as the Fisker Karma, is the only product available from that car company. And now with new products, showcasing what they can do for the future and taking their time to ensure that the viability of these products is right before they hit the market, this little company may be able to make it. Unlike its predecessor, Fisker, who is in major financial strain right now, trying to go all in on their one vehicle without working out all the bugs, Karma can grow properly. Fisker, on the other hand, is an underrated brand in the context that it had an amazing product, but its quality was not on par with what they were selling. Similar to that of the original DeLorean. That DMC-12 was not on par with what we all wanted. It was more than we thought. But when we got it, it was major lunch bag letdown. And that is where Fisker has made a mistake. Being able to correct that mistake can turn Fisker from an underrated brand into a top-tier company. With their Pear and their Alaskan pickup truck, Fisker had a product lineup that was going to sustain it into the future. Unfortunately, they've hit a brick wall, and this underrated brand is almost on its way out. Now, we do say almost on their way out. They may be able to make it. But like this, small little boutique builders manage to stick around, and we don't think a lot about them. Caterham and Donkervoort are two of those amazing brands. They've been around for so long, and they utilize one of the greatest platforms ever developed by Lotus Cars. We all know who Lotus is, and even though Lotus is trying to come back and compete directly with Ferrari and Lamborghini once again, we still know of their name. But a company like Caterham or Donkervoort, we don't remember them, even though they build products of the original Lotus 7 platform. To this day, they've been around for so long, and yet we just push them under the rug. Sounds familiar, similar to that of both TVR and Altima as well. All four of these brands are so underrated in their products that we forget that they build some of the world's greatest products. Donkervoort has taken the Lotus 7 and made it into one of the most amazing track cars of all time. Caterham has even gotten into bed with Formula One for a short stint, but they were still there. This tiny little boutique builder managed to support a Formula One team. Altima has built some of the most amazing supercars of all time, and yet we all forget about what they did. Just like TVR. TVR is probably one of the most underrated brands of all time. They built the boutique sports car industry in Great Britain. They showed us that you can build an amazing looking product off of the crap that the big companies throw away. The TVR Tucson uses products from both Ford, Opel, and Volkswagen throwaway bins. The dash of it is similar to that of a Ford Mondeo. They use parts from Opel for its interior, light fixtures from Volkswagen. It's essentially pieced together from what the other companies don't want. And even though they've run into financial difficulties and taken a long time to bring their new product to light, TVR is still kicking around. They're an amazing car company with amazing products, and they showcase to us what can be done on a budget. Hell, their Speed 12 is one of the fastest production vehicles of all time. It scared people to drive it, including its CEO, who after driving it stated the fact that they did not want to sell this to the general public. It would kill people if it was released. So they pulled the plug on the Speed 12 from a car built out of garbage parts. And we just look at them and just think, they just went bankrupt again because they're just a small, tiny little car company. And yet TVR was a company that showed us what you can do with just a little bit behind it. This is true from an up-and-coming brand from Kenya. Mobius Motors rides in that same territory as well. Their first product, the One, was essentially built as a base model vehicle that anybody can fix, anybody can drive, and you could fit as many people into. It met every category of the Kenyan marketplace. It goes off-road, you can beat it up, and you can easily fix it. Its second generation, the Mobius 2, is a little more in line with products that you would find elsewhere in the world. But Mobius Motors isn't something that you think of, and not a car company you really think of. Outside of Africa, you wouldn't even know they exist. But they're from an area that's an up-and-coming industrial powerhouse, especially for the African continent. Kenya is one of the few countries in the African continent where balance of power and industrialization of the continent is just starting. Mobius Motors is there, and alongside of them is another little car company called Wally's. Wally's car has only ever built one vehicle on their own. Everything else has been subcontracted products from either Chinese or French brands. Wally's car doesn't build a lot of their own stuff. So why would we include them on a list of car companies that are up and coming into the world? Well, Wally's car has something that's very similar to a lot of car companies on our list. Companies like IKCO, Microlino, and even Venturi. Hell, even VinFast can make it onto this part of the list for an upcoming brand. They started by building other people's products to get off the ground. Hell, if you go to Malaysia, there's two big car companies. There's Proton Auto, who's now owned by Geely, and Perodua, which essentially builds vehicles under license of Daihatsu. And similar to companies like IKCO and Wally's, they build vehicles for their market them as their own, and eventually utilize the capital from that to build their own production vehicle. Sound familiar? Hell, I'll give you another car company that started out in a similar format. Hyundai Motor Corporation started building the Ford Cortina for the Korean marketplace, utilized the production of that to slowly help them build their own car company and their own product lineup. Knowing what they learned from Ford, Hyundai was able to build one of the world's largest car companies. We're not saying that a car company like Perodua, Wally's Car, or even IKCO are going to become like that. IKCO builds so many different products from so many different car companies, past and present products for Middle Eastern marketplaces. They're one of the biggest product companies in the Middle Eastern marketplace, but by utilizing other people's technology and products, they could build their own name. By building your own own name in your own country, you can build brand loyalty with it. And that's where a lot of these up-and-coming brands come from. They get brand loyalty. Dacia, in their home country of Romania. Dacia was a small, tiny little entry-level, economy-based product, and yet it is one of the fastest growing divisions of the Renault-Nissan alliance, all from the cheapest brand in their entire corporate entity. Dacia is growing because they had a formula and they stuck with it. That is where a lot of these up-and-coming brands can get pushed under the rug and forgotten about, because a lot of them start with one singular decent product and they stick with that formula instead of trying to change it. A company like Chrysler and Dodge constantly change. Same as Chevrolet and Ford. They're constantly changing, constantly trying out new stuff, altering their platforms, altering their engines. Even when they get it right, they get to a point where they say, oh, we got to start all the way from scratch again. Where a company like Dacia does not do that. They understand where they came from and where they are going. And similar to that of one of the biggest underrated brands of all time, Dacia knows what they have and what they can give the world. Their growth comes from their past and their knowledge of their market. They know who they're selling to and they know what their customers want. This is true with the two biggest underrated brands of all time, Isuzu and Suzuki. Isuzu is one of the largest engine manufacturers in the world. They build engines and power units for so many different car companies, inclusive of their own products. We all see their pickup truck and their SUV and think, oh, they're not a huge car company, but they supply power units to both Honda and General Motors. Hell, Isuzu builds pickup trucks for most Asian car companies and even some American ones. The Chevrolet S10 in Colorado for South American and Asian marketplaces is an Isuzu. The Mazda BT50 is an Isuzu. Hell, even Chinese brands are utilizing their platform. Isuzu is similar to the standardized automotive world as Lotus is to the sports car world. They build amazing products and they let the world have them. They know that they're going to become competition for their own homebred product, but you're still going to come back to them for a new product. But Isuzu is unlike the biggest underrated brand in the entire world. One of the biggest brands in all of India and one of the most well-known names throughout the world. Suzuki. You may think, oh, everybody's heard of Suzuki. How are they considered on an underrated brand list? Well, Suzuki no longer sells vehicles in the North American marketplace. And even when they were here, they were on such a small scale and literally put under the heel of General Motors and crushed to being nearly non-existent. It wasn't until Suzuki broke free of their shackles of the General Motors empire that they started to grow in our marketplace. But unfortunately, by then, the market was not responding to their products. They had small cars in a time where car companies like Hummer were growing. People didn't want small cars. They wanted big, burly vehicles, and Suzuki was not making it. But even still, to this day, we regret letting Suzuki leave our shores. Their products last for so long. They could be beat up and literally keep going. Probably the reason why Suzuki has a partnership with Toyota. They both build nearly indestructible vehicles for the global marketplace. The original Samurais may have been death traps that fall over, but they're amazing products to go off-road that you can literally beat the crap out of. And the new Suzuki Jimneys sit in that same spot. These are products that keep going, but we don't think much about them because they're just too small for our market. And I mean too small like in the likes of smart cars. They're too small. They're small little vehicles that we don't take into consideration. In the North American marketplace, unless you're building vehicles from the very small to the very big, you're not a big car company. We don't care about you. Companies like Subaru still ride on this very narrow stream, and it's probably a reason why they still slip through the cracks. But their Impreza holds such great value in our market and in our minds that they become top of minds, and they don't sit at the bottom end, and we forget about them like Acura. Smart only built small little cars. You may think they're an underperforming brand and they'll never be big, but the ideology behind Smart products is amazing. Similar to that of Microlino. Microlino builds tiny little electric scooters, but they also built a brand new variation of the original Isetta design for the marketplace. Tiny little city runabout cars. The market may not seem super big, but as our cities get more congested, tiny little car companies like this will play a bigger role. And even though we may think they're just these tiny little pittance that we don't care about, Their underrated platforms may become the things of our future. And with the future coming forth, companies like NanoFlowCell, Nikola, Lucid, Xpeng, and Venturi are showcasing to us the world of tomorrow. These are car companies that we never even remember. We don't think of the NanoFlowCell Quant, the Nikola TRE, or even remember products like the Venturi Atlantic. But they pave the way for our future. These are products that are showcasing to us what our future can hold for us. These underrated brands are pushing the envelope of future technology. Xpeng is going after flying vehicles. Lucid is bringing back high-end products to the American marketplace. Venturi has gone from building vehicles into building power systems and technology for other car companies. Nikola is showcasing to us you can go both electric and hydrogen for transports. And NanoFlowCell is proving to the world that we don't just have to run on straight electricity in our future. There are other alternatives. But until these alternatives get realized, companies like this will be left at the bottom of the table. They won't grow to the extent that we want them to grow. And we will forget about them. The same way we've forgotten about companies like Force Motors and Mahindra from India. Everybody remembers Tata, but Mahindra, one of the largest tractor manufacturers in the world, builds SUVs and trucks as well. Hell, they build tuk-tuks. Force Motors builds SUVs for the Indian marketplace as well. These are small little companies that play such a big role in our market that we all forget about them. We forget that they're there and they're at the back of the pack. There's a lot of little companies that are like this. They're showcasing to us what they can do for the future. And it doesn't matter the amount of technology that we can throw into them. They may be able to make it, but they may not. The underrated products that are existing today are the ones who showcase to us our future endeavors. And amazing little companies like Hongqi, Gordon Murray, Genesis, and Noble, along with GAC, Guangzhou Automotive Group, showcase to us there are other alternatives in our marketplaces. GAC is for standard, premium, and even luxury products, hitting every mark and flying under the radar against companies like BID and FAW. Genesis proved to us you don't need to buy a Mercedes to get Mercedes quality. Gordon Murray showcased to us you can design and develop one of the fastest cars of all time, the F1, but you can also go at your own and build cars that topple the top ones in the world. Noble took a formula perfected by Lotus and took a platform of basic products to make it into one of the most powerful sports car brands sitting out there. These car companies, they have a lot to offer. And Hongqi, like Lucid, their fixation on luxury is way past what we can see. These are brands that have a strong future. And they're brands that we keep underplaying and think that they don't have anything to offer the real world. These are all car companies that are here. They own their part of the marketplace. And when they start moving forward, they will showcase to everybody what they are capable of truly giving the world in the automotive technology for the future. Underrated brands. In all sense, these small little companies seem like they're just there taking up space. But in all reality, a lot of these car companies are here to serve a purpose. And that purpose may only be for a narrow line in the automotive world. But in all reality, we need every one of these underperforming brands. You may forget where they came from, what they're doing, and what they've created. But the underrated brands of the world are the glue that holds the entire automotive world together. Because without them, these other larger manufacturers would never have anything to go up against. All they would have is themselves. So, if you like this podcast, please like, share, or comment about it on any major social feeds or streaming sites that you found the AutoLooks podcast on. And after that, after you sent this podcast out to your friends, your family, your coworkers, your boss, your in-laws, everybody you know, to tell them about brands that they believe are just little pittance in the automotive world and showcase to them what these car companies mean for the global empire. After you've done that, after you've sent it out, go and stop by the website and read some of the reviews. Check out the ratings on some of the products that we've talked about. All these car companies have products that have been rated by the AutoLooks.net team to showcase to us how they fit into the automotive design world as well. All of these little car companies are here and to serve a purpose. So stop by the AutoLooks.net website. Big or small, we have them all. Car companies from around the globe. All on the Corporate Links website page. There are links to every single one of these car companies that we've talked about on the AutoLooks.net website. The corporate website's linked page at the very top tab. Just click on that one. It'll bring you to every single one of these car companies that we've talked about. If you don't know the country we've talked about, click the letter and search for them. Hell, even just search for this podcast, where we'll have logos and cars from all of these car companies on our page to showcase to you everything that we talked about on the AutoLooks podcast. The AutoLooks podcast is brought to you by Ecom Entertainment Group and distributed by Podbeam.com. If you'd like to get in touch with us, send us an email over at email@autolooks.net. So for myself, Everett J., the whole AutoLooks team here, strap yourself in for this one fun, wild ride that the underrated brands are going to take us on.